Welcome back to this series of short videos delivered by Cascade. Now you'll remember in the last one we just touched on how we write, instead of stating a list of things, we present it as a claim, argument and evidence, but we can still link it to the assessment criteria. So we want to say that the arguments are true, they're supported by the evidence, and this of course will help you to determine what evidence you actually need to go and find. Then when presented in Cascade, you can see that the argument is written out with its description, and there is a workflow. So we need to add a piece of evidence, and that's been added. And then once that workflow is satisfied, it's possible to validate the argument. So you can manage your safety case in modules effectively, and you can have your competent people logging in to validate certain elements of the safety case, thus helping to drive accountability. So again, when the report is outputted in this PDF here, you can see that argument described, and the evidence that supports it, that validates the argument, is there. It is not somewhere that the regulator or even any author has to go searching for. They can see it immediately and make a determination whether they agree with you at that point. So let's take another example that people will recognise. So this is a building, it's got extended travel distances beyond the usual guidance. Now, in this case, the building has a mechanical smoke extraction system, so that engineered solution is acceptable. And on the surface, the system exists, the design was approved, and the FRA says it's acceptable, so everything looks fine. But in reality, that smoke extraction system has created a different risk. There's a different risk picture potentially, because those travel distances are not acceptable by default. They're only acceptable if the smoke extraction works as we assume it will. So what we're saying is that the viability now relies on these things: that the system was designed correctly, that it's available, that it will perform as we intend it to under fire conditions, and that it's properly maintained for its entire life, because it is now what we call in high hazard industries a critical control. And my point here is that the FRA may not be sufficient to provide continued assurance that the system continues to be appropriate, because it's unlikely to touch on whether the system was specified for the correct building geometry. Does it still meet the assumptions used to justify the extended travel distances? And what happens under these failure conditions if power supply is lost, if the standby power doesn't start, software modifications, any of these things, we need to assure ourselves that we have understood them and that we know that the system is still going to work as expected. Now, a lot of this comes from the safety management system. So if we're saying that the safety argument relies on the performance of the smoke extraction system, then we need to be able to explain to the regulator what the assumptions are we've made, which systems and management arrangements are in place, have we understood foreseeable failure modes, and what would happen if it didn't perform as expected. Now, this is actually the sort of language that the regulator asks, and I encourage you to use this kind of thinking when you're writing your safety case, because this is all wrapped up in the safety management system, and that's where a mature organisation will want to get to. It's about continual review of the arguments you're making, that the assumptions that they're based on, and the ongoing management of your controls, because we know that components age, software changes, we have significant churn in the sector, which affects your organisational knowledge. But it's understanding, has the risk changed? And unless the safety case is actively maintained, no one will notice until the system is needed. Now at Cascade, we are noticing that we think the sort of culture is shifting, and that's where our cloud-based software comes in. We can conduct reviews, hazard workshops, we can help you to write your safety case or provide training. So please do reach out.